Okay, so welcome to our first graphing tutorial. This time we are looking at how to do supply and demand graphs. Before we get into the graph, I did want to give you guys one quick note. We had a few issues in Unit 1 with uploading work to Schoology. So just to put this on the record, Schoology plays really nicely with pages and, with Word and PDF files. It does not convert pages files so that I can see them, and a GDoc file causes all sorts of havoc. There is an extension within Schoology that you can download to your account that will allow you to link Schoology to your Google Drive, and you can upload work that way. You can also, within a Google Doc itself, you can go through, and if you go to the file menu on your screen, you run all the way down to download as, then you'll have all of these options. If you're going to go ahead and do that, the easiest way to do it is download as a PDF. But that way you can go from a Google Doc to something that works nicely with Schoology, quick and easy, versus having to fight getting the 0 and seeing my note that just says, hey, I can't read it. So pages and GDoc files, please upload those in a different way so that I can grade your work. Sometimes you will find that it's easier and it's better for you to hand draw graphs, to write on worksheet type things. If that is your style, that is totally fine. But when you're uploading things, please don't upload just a simple picture of your work. Sometimes those picture files don't translate the right way and things get really weird. Take a picture of it, paste it into a Word doc, paste it into something else, and then upload that to the assignment. I have no problem with hand-drawn graphs as long as they are neat and precise and I can read them. If you submit a picture that is just fuzzy and I can't read it, I can't give you any points for fuzzy. So just kind of keep that in mind. On your final exam, you're going to have only access to Google tools. To internet tools. So getting used to like a Google Draw or that draw.io site would be helpful as you go forward. But if you're just running out of time or you would rather do it as a written thing, that's fine. Just kind of know when you get to the exam, you're going to have to do it all internet based. So just kind of keep that in mind as we go through. Otherwise, let's talk graphing. Oh, sorry, just kidding. I got all excited. Some upcoming dates to plan on. Unit 2 is currently in action. It will end on the 23rd, which is next Sunday at midnight. To clarify, that is Sunday at 11:59 p.m. I had a couple kids ask that question. The sooner that you can get work into me to grade, the sooner you can get some feedback. I have some kids that tried to do Unit 1 in a day, and I know that it's summer and things happen, but that doesn't give you time to get my feedback to say, whoa, Tiger, your graphs are super wrong, or you really did this the wrong way. Please go back or look at this video or try this thing again, or to get my feedback. Because we're not in a class face-to-face, you need to give yourself a little bit of time for me to get back to you. And that way I can help you get over the hump if you have some problems. And if you don't have problems, then you'll be all fine. Unit 3 will open on June the 21st, so just before the end of Unit 2, and it'll run until July the 2nd. Again, same thing, get me your work as soon as possible. And remember, we are going to take a 3-day break over the 4th of July for you to spend some time with your family, take a breather. Unit 4 will be open, but we're not going to officially start until July the 6th. So that we've got a little bit of a break to enjoy the 4th of July. So, okay, let's talk graphing. For this set of graphs for supply and demand, you need to get used to labeling everything. Every time you draw a graph, you need to be able to look at what you're doing and make sure it communicates itself to me. So if you are looking at a graph, it's got to be labeled. Okay, so all of these graphs are going to begin with a set of axes, which is the L shape, and you're going to start with a price and quantity as your measurement. You will always, 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 always have price on your vertical axis and you will always, always, always have quantity on your horizontal axis. Do not mix those up. That is one of the basic things you got to start with. Okay. I do find it's a little bit easier to talk quickly through supply and demand separately. So just to show you what we're going to look at, for demand, when you're talking about graphing demand, you're going to be drawing a line that goes from the upper left down to the right, and you're going to always label it D for demand. If you get used to every time you draw something on a graph, immediately label it. Okay, that way you never have a problem. On these graphs, you can shift demand back and forth. Things can change, and that's okay. We say in economics that a graph represents a ceteris paribus condition. And that's just a fancy way to say it's like taking a picture, right? And if something about the picture changes, something about the graph has to change. So if I'm going to increase demand, something changes in my world and I need to increase demand across the world, I'm going to draw a new line. I'm going to label it D2. You can go D1, D2, and then show just a little directional shift arrow to show me what I'm up to. If demand is going to decrease, we'll do that in a different color. You're going to draw a new demand line to the left-hand side. We'll call that D3, and we'll say that it's shifted like that. So you always want to have a label. You want to have a little directional shift arrow, and you want to make sure I know I can go from 1 to 2 to 3 or whatever's up in the question at hand. One of the cheats that I tell my face-to-face kids, I'm looking at merit. Merit is what shifts demand. Okay. So shifting demand, first of all, is market size. If you have extra consumers, you're simply going to have more people demanding the stuff. So imagine that 2 high schools worth of kids come into your hang on a second. We'll get rid of that audio real quick. Okay, so if I've got 2 high schools worth of kids going to 1 high school, you're going to have extra demand for school lunch, for space in the hallways, for a locker, for a parking space. So you're going to have an increase in demand for things. And that's simply because of market size. The next one is expectations, and that's because people generally respond to things as humans. If I expect that the price of something will be cheaper tomorrow, I'm not going to buy it today. I'm going to wait until tomorrow to buy the thing. If I expect that the price of something is going to be more expensive tomorrow, I'm going to buy it today while it's cheaper, so I don't have to pay the extra costs tomorrow. So that's going to kind of go back and forth. The third one, the R, is related prices. And this is where we have to get into substitutes and complements. A complement is a good that you buy with something else, like peanut butter and jelly, milk and cereal, tennis ball, tennis racket. You're always going to buy those things together. So that you are looking at a package of goods. So let's say the price of peanut butter goes way, 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 way up. You're not going to skip buying peanut butter and only buy jelly. You're going to kind of change your purchasing of jelly at the same time, right? The other thing that goes with related prices are substitutes. So these are goods that you buy in place of something else. So I go to the store and I'm looking to get, steaks for dinner. If beef is really expensive, maybe I get chicken that I can grill for dinner, right? So steak and chicken would be substitutes for each other. So those are going to react to each other. The fourth one is income. And this is normal and inferior goods. A normal good is just the thing that you go and you buy at the store. It is your mac and cheese, it is your name brand cereal, it is your gallon of milk, gallon of gas, the things that you just typically buy as a person. An inferior good is a good that you purchase when times are tough. So if your income goes down, maybe you don't buy like the name brand cereal, maybe you buy the store brand cereal. Or maybe instead of making yourself a really, really nice dinner, you buy ramen. High college kids, right? So those inferior goods are goods that are just lesser quality, and when your income goes down, you tend to buy more of them. The last one is taste and preferences. So that's the T on merit. And those tastes and preferences are simply like, do you want the thing? When something is really, really popular, like a Furby or a Silly Band or you name the popular toy, then you will buy more of the thing. When that fad ends and nobody wants it anymore, you're going to stop trying to buy it and your demand will decrease for that. Okay? Questions for me on demand. Are we okay-ish? Okay. I don't see anything there, but if you want to type something in the box, let me know. So supply is different. I think demand is really easy for kids because you are demanders. You buy things all the time, right? You go out and you buy a lunch. You buy a gallon of gas for your car. You are consumers all the time. Supply is a little bit harder because you have to think like a business. So you have to think about, how does a business make a decision? Okay, so supply is going to act differently. We're still on that same price and quantity axis, but in this case, your supply line is going to go from the bottom left to the top right. Now, why does that happen? This happens because you've got a business that's looking to make money, and they are constantly looking to make money. So if I can sell the exact same t-shirt for $5 or $50, I am much more interested in selling it to you for $50 because I want to make money. If I can sell you a gallon of gasoline for your car for $5 versus $2 a gallon, I'm going to sell it to you for $5 a gallon. So businesses get excited about higher prices. When prices are high, they're going to be excited about providing to you the things that they're creating in their business. So trices is kind of the way to remember shifts in supply, and this is really production. Can I make the thing for cheaper, or is it more expensive? So something like technology. If I am a car manufacturer and I can install a robot instead of having a worker on an assembly line, that's cheaper for me. It is. I mean, robots don't get sick. They don't have kids who, break a leg and need you to go get them from school. They don't have all those kind of things. So technology increases will tend to increase supply. Next thing is related prices. So things that I use in production. If I'm making a car and the price of steel changes, or the price of tires change, those are going to change how I change with supply. Competition. How many producers are out there? If there are simply more people creating cars, there will be more cars available in the world. Expectations. Business function on expectations the exact same way. If businesses know that they can sell something for more expensive tomorrow, they're going to wait and sell it to you tomorrow. If they know that they can buy something, or they can sell it to you for more expensive today and it'll be cheaper tomorrow, they're going to try and sell it to you today. Okay. The last one on here are taxes and subsidies. I think kids are used to taxes. That's where the government takes your money, right? So if there's a tax on a good, it makes it harder to do. A subsidy is the opposite. A subsidy is when the government decides that they really, really want something to exist. A great example of this is solar panels. Solar panels are very expensive to produce, and so you don't have a lot of businesses who do that. We currently have a government program that pays businesses to make solar panels. So I'm making up the numbers, but let's say that for every solar panel that you produce, I'm going to pay you $500 per solar panel. That reduces the cost for businesses, and so they're going to be more excited to produce the thing, and so they're going to make more solar panels out there in the world. Subsidies also happen on farm products sometimes, particularly things like corn that we use in food and like gasoline applications. So you're going to see those out there, but just remember, subsidies when I hand you money versus a tax is when I take it away. So the tricky thing with supply is how it shifts. Okay. Same thing with demand. An increase is going to be to the right. So if I have an increase in supply, I'm going to have a supply line that shifts to the right. Now, every single time I do this, some kid goes, but supply went down, right? Because it looks like supply went down. So how do I check my work? Let's pick a cleaner line. Sorry, I'm drawing with my mouse, so it's a little awkward. So I've got supply 1, supply 2, I've showed my shift, right? The easiest way to see if you've got it, an increase or decrease, is to choose a price. And let's just say this is a price of like $5, right? At $5, my initial supply, let's say maybe I made 100 of something. My new supply, now I make like 125 of something. So that is an increase in supply in the quantity that I put out there in the world. So if you're ever unsure, you can always check yourself and say, did my line increase or decrease? And with supply, remember, it just feels weird because it looks like it's going down. Think right, left, not up, down. So an increase goes to the right. A decrease in supply would be a shift to the left. We'll call it S3, where you would have less quantity. So I was initially making 100, and now over here, maybe I'm only making 40 of whatever the product is. Okay, so remember that you're going left, right, not up, down. It's the biggest issue that kids tend to have. So from now on, as of right now, you will always have supply and demand together on a graph. Okay, so you have to get used to drawing these things and all the component parts. Okay, the easiest thing to do is to start basic. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it up here in the corner. I'm going to draw a set of axes. I'm immediately going to go price and quantity. I am okay if you do P and Q. We all know that P is price and Q is quantity. That's not a problem. Okay. The next thing you're going to always do is you're going to draw supply and demand. So you're going to have S for supply. You're going to have D for demand. Now, because they cross over, this is what we call in economics an equilibrium point. So you have to label that point. So you're going to say this point right here, this tends to be a dotted line, is going to be a price at equilibrium. And this guy right here is going to be my quantity at equilibrium. And you'll see some cleaner versions of this graph. So you want to go price and quantity, draw your axis, supply and demand, draw your lines, and then tag your equilibrium point. As I'm grading, I like giving all the points to kids. It's my favorite thing to go, you're awesome, you did the thing. In economics, graphs replace a whole essay question. I can take a graph and make it say 2 pages worth of information if I do it correctly. So it really does matter if things are labeled properly. Okay, the quickest way to lose points is if you turn me in a graph that's supposed to be supply and demand and it looks like that. I have no labels, I have no lines, I don't know what I'm looking at. In economics, that could represent one of 6 different graphs. So you want to make sure everything is labeled as you're going through things. So now that they're both on the same graph, we have to work through what happens when things change in the world. Okay, so let's try a situation together. We've got our basic supply and demand graph, and the question says, in the market for hamburgers, what happens if a study comes out linking red meat to an increased chance of heart attack? Okay, so get ready to type in the box. Is this a supply or demand issue? The easiest way to check in your brain is to go, is this about people making something or is this people buying something? Demand. Yes, absolutely. Good job. So if I find out that I eat more hamburgers, I'm going to get more heart attacks, I'm not excited about that. So I am going to stop trying to eat hamburgers. So you'll see a decrease in demand. So what needs to happen on my graph is I need a new demand line that shows a decrease. So I'm going to go D1 and D2. I'm going to show a directional shift with a little arrow. right? And I'm going to label. I'm going to say, okay, this is going to be quantity 2, and this over here is going to be price 2. Now that graph shows me I've had a decrease in demand. The price of hamburger is going to go down. The quantity of hamburger sold is going to go down. And you can give me a very simple explanation that just says simply, people don't like heart attacks, so they're going to stop buying it. Okay. Okay, so let's do another one. In the market for hamburgers, what happens if the price of hot dogs doubles? So first step, is this supply or demand? Ooh, it just got interesting. Okay. Is this question about a business being able to make hamburgers? Right? It's about people consuming lunch, basically, right? So this is going to be a demand issue. If you go back to, I'm going to click really fast. If you go back to things that shift demand over here, remember this whole one over here where we have complements and substitutes? Okay, in this case, the hot dogs and the hamburgers are substitutes for each other. I'm either going to buy a hot dog or a hamburger for lunch, right? So if you go back to our question, the price of hot dogs doubles. So people who were going to purchase hot dogs, are they going to buy more hot dogs? No. They're like, hot dogs are really expensive. So remember, we are in the market for hamburgers. So this is a graph about hamburgers, right? So if hot dogs are more expensive, the people who were going to buy hot dogs are now going to purchase hamburgers for lunch instead. So you're going to see an increase in demand for hamburgers. Now, if this was a graph about hot dogs, when that price goes up of hot dogs, demand would absolutely go down. But because we are in the market for hamburgers, people are going to now purchase more hamburgers because the hot dogs are more expensive. Okay. Okay, let's try another one. In the market for t-shirts, so we're focused on t-shirts. What happens if the price of cotton goes down? Is this supply or demand? Supply. Good. So it's about making t-shirts because cotton is an ingredient in t-shirts, right? It's sort of like making shirts. So if the price of cotton gets cheaper, as a business, can I make more or less t-shirts for the same amount of money? I can make more. Very good. So I'm all excited. I'm like, yes, cotton is cheap. I'm going to make all the more t-shirts. So supply will increase because I'm going to make more of them. Now, does that shift to the right or to the left? Good, 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 good. So we always increase supply to increase to the right. Okay, so then I'm going to have a new price, a new quantity. I'll call them Q2 and P2. Does that make sense? So you just kind of have to analyze it. Supply or demand? How does it, interact? Which line is going to shift, and then in which way? Let's see. Did I put another one on here? So if I'm in the market for computers, so I'm focused on computers. What happens if minimum wage is raised to $30 an hour? Is that a supply or demand issue? Good. Very good at supply. As you're studying the components that make up supply, one of the biggest expenditures for businesses is labor, right? So if I have to pay my workers a whole lot more money, it's going from $7.25 to $30 an hour, all of a sudden everything is more expensive to make, right? Every human that I hire is all of a sudden more expensive to me as a business owner. So as I'm supplying computers to the marketplace, can I supply more or less of them to the market? Less. Perfect. So you'll see a decrease in supply. Remember, decreases go to the left. So you'll have a supply 2, little directional arrow just to show me which way it went. And then you'll have a quantity 2. So I'm going to make less of them. And even when I sell them, I'm going to have to charge more because it's more expensive simply to make the thing. Okay? So last one. In the market for gasoline, what happens if the price goes from $3 to $5? This is one that is a specific situation, okay, that I always like to make sure that you guys know so you don't get caught up on it. In these markets, remember that the first thing that we are graphing price, and we are graphing quantity, right? So I have drawn my graph to represent every single quantity possible in theory and every single price possible in theory, okay? So if the price of gasoline changes, I've already graphed that on my graph, okay? So in this case, the price goes from $3 to $5. Let's just say the current equilibrium is $3, okay? If the price goes up to $5, I've already graphed that on my graph, right? $5 exists here, but it's not going to shift anything, okay? So this is one of those things to keep in mind, that if the only thing that changes is the price of the target good, we're simply going to move on the graph itself, okay? So the price of $5, I already know what the demand and what the supply will be, okay? So in this case, at $5 demand, people are going to ask for, let's say, 30 of whatever this is, okay? And at a price of $5, businesses are like, $5, that's a great price. So they're going to be willing to supply a whole lot more. So let's say that they're willing to supply like 45 of whatever this is, okay? So I've already graphed it. All you have to do on the graph is show me that things have shifted away from equilibrium, okay? So you're going to show your directional shifts with your arrows, but now what I've got is I've got an unbalanced market. I'm no longer at equilibrium, okay? And as you go through your readings, you're going to find 2 words that you need to know. They are called surplus and shortage, okay? Surplus is when you have extra stuff available for sale, and a shortage is when you have not enough stuff available for sale. So in this case, in our question, the price goes from $3 to $5. The amount supplied, 45, is way more than the amount demanded of 30. So I'm going to have extra stuff available for sale. So I'll have a surplus of gasoline. Okay, let's say my question, let's pick another color so I don't get too confused for you guys. If my question said the price went from $3 to $2, well, I've already graphed $2, right? So at $2, I've got way more demanded than I do supplied. So I'm going to have not enough stuff for sale. I'm going to have a shortage of things for sale because I'm not at that equilibrium point. Okay, so the only time this happens is if the price of the good that you're graphing changes. So in this case, we are in the market for gasoline, so it's literally gas. If the price of gas changes, that's going to change along your price axis. We've already graphed it. So if I'm in the market for gasoline and the price of cars change, that's not going to be the situation. That's going to be a demand-supply thing, right? But if it's the same market that you're in, changing price, you've already graphed it on your graph. So can this not just be like supply or just demand, or is it both? So what do you mean by so can this not just be like supply or just demand? In this case, supply and demand didn't shift. The only thing that changed in this entire question is the price of the good. So I'm using the same graph. The picture is still the same. I'm just shifting along the graph itself because the price changed. So I'm reading it differently. Right. So in this, this is this specific question, right? So in this specific question, yes, supply and demand didn't change. We're only looking at a change in price. That's the only thing that changed in this situation. It's not like one of the other ones where I'm like in the market for computers and minimum wage changes, or I'm in the market for t-shirts and cotton changes. In this case, the only change that happens is a change in price of that good. Yes, it is absolutely the only time that it'll happen. Okay. Last little note for you guys. Just a reminder, please try to submit work earlier in the week so I can give you feedback. Remember, for your tests, you need to submit graphs. It's really important. And check my feedback on assignments, because sometimes I'm going to give you a, hey, specifically these are the questions you need to look back at. I may say, hey, you've got this all wrong. Here, try one of these videos. I may leave you a note and just say, hey, this is super wrong. You and I need to sit down for some tutoring. So just make sure you're reading my feedback. But other than that, that's all I really wanted to go through. If you guys have questions, we can run through whatever you want. If not, have a fantastic Sunday.